terrifying true Airbnb host horror stories. Look, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in that situation where you're home alone, but for some reason you can't explain, you swear someone else is there with you? It's not the neighbors. It's not the wind. It's nothing logical. It's that feeling, that presence, the kind that makes your body freeze before your mind even understands why. That presence that makes you look twice at the dark hallway and think, I wasn't alone a moment ago. Yeah. Now imagine feeling that, not in your own home, but in a small apartment rented to someone you thought you knew, and realizing that nothing, absolutely nothing, is what it seems. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about true and terrifying horror stories lived by Airbnb hosts. Homes that carry hidden secrets, and guests who leave scars you can't see, but you feel. And look, if you're someone who has ever distrusted a guest, heard footsteps when you shouldn't hear anything, or you simply understand that evil doesn't need to be big to be real, go ahead and click that subscribe button and leave a like if this video helps you. Because today's story is heavy. We think fear begins when something happens, but real fear begins when something doesn't make sense. It's when your mind tries to put the puzzle together and realizes a piece is missing, a piece that should be there. And this story is exactly that. His name was Marcos. He lived alone in a 40-square-meter apartment in Sao Paulo and supplemented his income by renting out a spare room on Airbnb. Nothing unusual, nothing suspicious, nothing dramatic. Until one day he received a booking from a guest named Samuel A. No profile picture, no social media, no description, nothing. Now you might be thinking, Nick, that's normal. Some people just don't like showing themselves. Yes, you're right. Sometimes it is normal. But here's what most people don't realize. Evil doesn't need to be anonymous. Evil simply doesn't introduce itself. And Marcos's first impression was simple. This guy doesn't smile. It wasn't shyness. It wasn't coldness. It wasn't arrogance. It was as if he didn't know how to smile. As if smiling was a movement too strange for that face. On the first night at 3:17 a.m., Marcos woke up to a sound he described as someone dragging their feet in the hallway, slowly, like they were testing what it feels like to walk. The hallway was tiny. 3 steps and you'd reach the bathroom. But that sound kept going. And here's the detail. The guest never locked his room door. Never. Not even at night. It was as if he wanted access to the whole apartment at any time. When Marcos got up and opened his own door, the hallway was empty. But when he looked toward the guest room, the door was slightly open. And inside, Samuel was standing, facing the wall, completely still, shirtless, breathing slowly, eyes wide open. Marcos tried to speak. Hey man, you okay? No answer. Not even a blink. And then, the most unsettling thing. The guest moved only his neck. Turned it slowly, very slowly, as if he was learning the movement right there. And he whispered, Did you hear it too? Now you might be thinking, Nick, that's just someone who sleepwalks. And yes, that would be the logical explanation. Marcos tried to believe that too. But here's where it gets really interesting. The next morning, the guest made coffee like nothing happened. He spoke just a little, but he did. He thanked him. He seemed normal. And that's when your mind tries to fool you. Maybe I imagined it. It was late, I was tired. Everyone has weird moments. But the body doesn't lie. The body remembers. And that morning Marcos said, His presence made the air heavy, like the apartment was too small for two people. On the second night, Marcos heard footsteps again. But this time they weren't dragging. They were quicker, more rhythmic, like someone walking in circles. Inside his room, when Marcos stepped out, the hallway was dark. And then, he saw it. Not the guest, but the shadow of the guest under the door. Except the shadow wasn't still. It was trembling, vibrating, as if something impossible was happening in that room. Marcos touched the doorknob and froze, because the vibration stopped instantly, as if someone on the other side knew he was there. The next morning, Marcos gathered the courage and asked, "Do you feel comfortable here?" The guest answered immediately, "I like it here because you don't close your eyes when you sleep." Marcos went cold, because he didn't sleep with his door open. He didn't sleep on the couch. He didn't sleep facing the hallway. So how did Samuel know that? He continued, "You sleep like someone who listens." And then he smiled. The wrong way. A way that doesn't fit a human face. On the third night, everything fell apart. Marcos's bedroom door began opening by itself. First a soft creak, then a snap, then the light from the hallway slipping in. Marcos sat up and saw Samuel standing in the doorway. But there was a detail, an impossible detail. The light was coming from behind him, but no shadow was cast. The guest had no shadow. And then he said, "I don't like when you wake up. It makes it harder." Marcos tried turning on the light. And then the first explicit supernatural event happened. The light bulb exploded. No touch. No power outage. No reason. It exploded the moment he tried to illuminate the guest. And Samuel stepped forward. But the sound of the step wasn't a foot on the floor. It was something sliding like flesh being dragged. Marcos ran to the living room door. Locked. Pay attention, he never locked that door from the inside. He was absolutely sure of that. But that night, it was locked from the outside. He heard the voice behind him. "I need to be where you are." And his body froze. Total paralysis. But he was awake. Samuel placed his hand on Marcos's back. A cold, damp, heavy hand. And whispered, "You have a shadow. I need yours." The only thing Marcos remembers after that is the sound of an ambulance. The neighbors called for help after hearing screams. He was found unconscious, shaking, with the door unlocked and no trace of the guest. When the police checked the Airbnb system, there was no Samuel A. The reservation existed, but the profile was empty. No ID, no verification, no history. And the strangest part, the hallway camera showed Marcos arriving alone. No guest ever entered. No guest ever left. And in the guest room, a phrase was written on the wall in something dark. His shadow didn't fit. Here's the thing. We think we understand evil. We think it comes from outside, that it has shape, that it has a face. But sometimes evil comes quietly. It watches. It imitates. It hides inside people who look perfectly normal. And the scariest part? Sometimes evil uses the name of someone who never existed. If you want more stories like this, real, strange, disturbing, subscribe to the channel, leave a like and comment. I slept with my door closed tonight, because after this story, I know you will.